Perfect. Hi, can everyone
Okay,
hear me?
there you go.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, well, I was gonna just say again, happy Monday. Thank you all for being here and taking time from the beginning of your week to hang out with Will and I. This week we're covering a really important topic, which centers around client retention. I think this is a really important and under discussed conversation for a lot of business owners. And, I talk to small solopreneurs and agency founders, and a lot of times they say, like, hey, um, we just had a client cancel, and then when it rains it pours, three cancel at once. It's super stressful. We don't know how we got to this point. And I wanted to create a very simple tool to kind of do some risk assessment for you automatically as you operate your business every day. Because a lot of times when you're in the business, it's very easy to get stuck in the weeds and miss some subtle cues that and like behavioral changes that are occurring on the client side, that you may just not have an opportunity to like think through. So this is intended to kind of check client patterns and the way that they're communicating, how often they're approving things, when they're approving things, if they're late on things, so that you can start to have those conversations before you get slammed with the final notice that your client is quitting abruptly. Will, do you want to like add to that a little bit before we jump in?
No, I just think this is such a smart workflow to start automating or something that, it can just be something to flag. I think with a lot of AI workflows, um, I use them as a like, should I be paying more attention to this? Like, does this need more human insight? And they're kind of things that can, be that first pass or that first layer. So this is a really smart, creative use case, and definitely from my time building an agency, there are definitely times where I could have used this. Because there are behavioral changes, and the longer that you do it, you kind of realize and pick up on those. And so being able to codify that to be able to pick up those nuances is really smart. So excited to dive into this.
Awesome. And then, in case you're new here, I do see some familiar faces, but I also see some new faces. I'm Victoria. I'm the founder of Front Desk. We do embedded business operations and marketing. I've spent 15 years over multiple sectors, kind of building out this skill set. And I'm really privileged and honored to get to partner with Will on what we're doing. Will, you want to say a little spiel on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Will. My day job is running a content agency called Catalyst. We are very AI native and AI forward. So every week, I host Maven workshops that are free to teach you how to use AI more effectively in your businesses or around building content workflows. And we have Victoria helping us kind of talking about more of a small business, workflows and things to help you in your day-to-day business. So excited to go into this.
Yeah, same. And I just wanted to shout out Will for being an amazing partner here. Will's courses are definitely a lot more technical, which I recommend that you should dive into as well. But what I like to lean into, at least for my workshops, is a lot of times founders are super busy. They don't have the time to necessarily sit there and like play around with the technology. I'm hoping that every week that you come here with me, you get something practical that you can take away that's super easy for you to use and helps take more things off your plate. So that's what we're leaning into. We actually have a course starting on the 17th, that's going to kind of tie everything together. So I'm excited to offer you guys that. And I also ask for a lot of participation. That's something that I think is so critical here. We have an hour with you, but like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Go off mute, raise your hand. Charles, Tori, and Will be flagging me because I'm sharing like multiple screens. I can't always see you. But I wanted to start off with a very simple question. Drop in what you do. What kind of business do you run? What's your industry? What's your role? I just kind of want to get a sense of like who's in the room.
Or what your role is at a company if you're an employee.
Yeah, exactly. So HR, people ops, love. Cool.
Cool. Marketing, events, venue, and planning.
Biz consulting, AI PM. Ooh,
Oh,
hopefully we're gonna manifest that for you. Amazing. Business consulting. Yeah, I think this workflow is doable and usable for anyone in any of these sectors. So I'm excited to dive in. Something that I recommend after this call as you build this workflow out is the best time to use this workflow to have a conversation. If you're a solopreneur, that report should be on your desk and you should be reviewing it at least once a week. And for those of you that are parts of larger teams or leading teams, it's really good for like the PMs or the AMs on the team to have a weekly call in which you guys kind of discuss the clients that are getting flagged as the red flag and what are proactive next steps that you could be taking to ensure that you don't keep that client in the red, whether that's booking a one-on-one with the founder or with the person in charge, or adding in more touch points throughout the week, or having a game plan to help them get their approvals into you on time. All of those little things are going to help you utilize this to the max. So just remember that this workflow is not just a report that you kind of glaze over. This should be a report that you take very seriously. Okay. So really scary question. Do you have a client who's about to leave? Anyone have anyone that gotten a client notice, or anyone that's like, oh, I feel like nervous talking to this client because I know they're not happy? This is like a very vulnerable question. Most of us I think would like to say like, no, none of my clients are leaving and everything is great and hunky dory. But I think the reality is there's definitely times where things are at risk. And you can think of it in your mind too. If you're like, I don't want people to know that I have a client at risk, that's okay. So is there a client that maybe you've been thinking about more than usual lately? Like think of it in your head, like have they gone quiet? Did the last check-in kind of feel off? Did I think Gen Z says vibes a lot. So like, did the vibes feel off when you're on your weekly cadence? Are they rescheduling calls with you? Are they resorting to just like last minute DMs? Has there been a message in their inbox longer than feels right without a response, whether that's on Slack or via email? Like whatever your modes of communication, has something just kind of fell off, but you can't quite place it? I know I've definitely been in that situation where I have a weekly client call and it keeps getting moved. Or when I'm on the call with the client, they're on cameras off and they're not very responsive. And I can tell that they're doing other things and that what I'm saying on the call isn't quite permeating into effective action points for them. So there's definitely going to be subtle signs that as a human in the loop on this process, you'll be able to feel. But there hasn't been a quantitative way to identify like what is causing you to feel that way. So, in my experience, by the time a client actually speaks up, you've already lost them. There's already a breakage of trust. They've already made up their mind that they want to leave, and it's so much harder to work up a plan to get them to stay at this point. Okay. Yeah, and I think as business owners, we go through cycles of like lots of drastic learning where we realize our own operating standards can be improved or our own client retention policies can be improved. I know that I've definitely been in scaling mode before as a founder where I'm so focused on building the business and bringing in new leads that I take for granted my longest client, like scoped clients. And those are actually the ones that are fundamentally important to your business. So it's important to keep tabs on all of your current clients, where they stand, not just the ones that you're onboarding and starting to set up systems for. A lot of times when you're going to have a client at risk, you're going to see signals present that maybe you're not quite in tune with because you don't interface with them every day. Maybe you have a middle management layer of your business where you're only escalated problems when they become real problems. And so sometimes it's important to have client health checkpoints, especially when your team becomes larger, because there are signals that are already present that you may not have an opportunity or have visibility to. So, for example, their latest responses, their response rate. their patterns in behavior. Maybe you have that client that's like always pinging you on the weekends and at nights. That's when they check your things. And then all of a sudden you just notice that they're not checking anything. Or maybe you've given them a strategy or an execution plan and they haven't approved it or they haven't left comments on it. Your gut is great. And I love gut feelings. I think they're very important as people to have those intuitive moments. But at the end of the day, your gut's not going to tell you everything. And chances are you're busy already, so much so that you tend to ignore your gut feelings and focus on the things that are right in front of you. Okay, let me
Yeah,
just
I
check.
think,
Go ahead.
yeah, something I want to chime in on this, Victoria, because I think this is what is one of the things that is so exciting about AI for me is really the forcing function of documenting and prescribing what those gut feelings are. Because the gut feelings are based off of something, and it's usually, we recognize the feeling before we recognize the pattern underneath it. And what a lot of building these workflows has taught me is dissecting and really analyzing what that gut feeling is and what the culmination is, so you can kind of codify how you feel those. So, right, how do you have a feeling some vibes are off with a client? Well, is it, to your point, like, is it because they're not responding? Is it because a deliverable went unread? Because you're not getting responses. It really forces you to go a layer deeper and actually label what those gut feelings are.
Exactly. And then I've also worked with account managers before that flag to me, Victoria, I send a here's what we're going to be working on this week message every Monday. On Wednesday, I do a check in. We have a weekly call, and I still feel like something's off. How do I get people to approve my messages? How do I
Mm,
force the client into reading these communication pieces? And I think something that I want to emphasize is this layer that we're building and codifying human responses is just one step. There's still a human in the loop element that is so critical to that relationship building with your client. So as you start to look at deliverables scoped out versus what is actually being delivered, there's an additional layer in our workshop where we're going to actually cover, okay, here are the client health signals. Here's their data points that are showing their response rate, their deliverables, um, and flagging what's working, what's not with them. But then it's going to take us a layer deeper and it's going to compare your SOP to your actual reality of what you're delivering. And it's going to compare your week over week meeting notes and it's going to help make suggested calls to action the human in the loop piece. Like, hey, you delivered only half of the blog that you were committed to. Why did that happen? And then let's have a conversation with the client on getting back on track. And those are things that manually over time we've always done with an account manager. AI can now codify a lot of this work for you so that you can focus most of your time on building the relationship, which in my opinion is what gets people to stay at the end of the day. High quality work, doing what you say, saying what you're going to do, and then doing it very well, and then just having that connection with them. Um, Will, do you want to add anything else?
no, I think that's spot
Yeah.
on.
Okay, nice. Okay, so sometimes I know I've done this and I put my head in the sand because I'm avoiding a difficult conversation, or I know something on my side of my team happened and that my team didn't do something very well. And I kind of ignore the problem because it makes it easier. And I honestly like being vulnerable and sharing that as a founder. Sometimes I do that. And then I'll start to ignore the signs of, oh, I notice this client's not responding. Something's happening here, but I don't want to pry into their personal business. Or maybe it is that I do know their personal business and I know it's going to be a difficult business conversation. So I think a lot of times there's this like human element that enters a gray area. And because we don't have the data points to show and help fuel this difficult conversation, we avoid it. So the intention of this tool is also to help flag like patterns. So then when you go into a difficult conversation, you can share like, hey, is the tool just share? Oh, sorry. Just want to make sure everyone's on mute here. Cool. I want to share like, for example, let's say Charles is my client and I notice that he's just not responding, every deliverable that I send him is not read and not approved, then I have to have a difficult conversation with him, um, and talk to him about, hey, like I noticed that, there's lack of engagement on your side. What's going on? How can I support you? Because I want to make sure that my team's giving their best quality work, and it's difficult to do that when I'm not able to get responses from you. How can we adjust accordingly? And so these are all conversations that we should be having, but this automation is going to help you have them more effectively. There is two types of account management. There's reactive account management and there's proactive account management. Using this Cowork automation is going to help you be more proactive, to help you save your account before you're in that home stretch of like that Hail Mary pass that you're hoping is going to help save the day. Um, Versus reactive mode is like you already getting that email from the client that they're not happy or that they're frustrated. Um, then you have to go into like fix it mode and be super apologetic, scramble, maybe offer free service, maybe offer a discount just to keep you there. And we just want to avoid that altogether. Why do we want to avoid it? Why is it important? I mean, we keep talking about data, so I wanted to provide some data for you guys. Acquiring a new client costs 5 times more than keeping one. Your most high value clients are the ones that stay longer term. So most founders spend zero time on systematic client retention. There's no system, manual work takes too long, and they tend to lean on their account managers. And because they're in the weeds executing or working on other things that are louder and, like I say before, in your face, they tend to ignore the silence of the clients that are just kind of going through the motions. And I also want to flag, the longer you have a client, the more creative your output has to be. Because if they feel like they're habitually going to the motions, they're going to question the value of what they're getting from you. And so it's always about proving value, proving high quality results, and then finding ways to re-engage the client, provide new ideas strategically, to make sure that they're as invested as you are in the relationship. Um, this is what knowing what any client at a time looks like. We're going to do a health tracker here. So um, in your PDF following this call, you're actually going to get a free Notion page that helps deliver all of this information. Your client health tracker is super critical, and this is going to also help fuel those weekly account management conversations that you have if you're leading a bigger team. And then it will also help fuel your own conversations with yourself if it's just you solopreneuring. So this system is going to be really simple to set up. You're going to have your team set status updates anytime something moves. And Cowork is going to read all of your status updates. So you're going to be able to see everything there. And then Cowork is also going to learn your client responses. So it's going to integrate into your Slack account. This is the primary messaging tool that I've chosen for this automation and for this Cowork task. So if you use Monday.com or you use ClickUp, there's also ways in which to integrate that. It just looks a little different. And then we're also going to see how Cowork actually assigns the health flag. So let's do this together. Okay. So first and foremost, if you guys haven't yet, we need to connect your Claude to your Slack account. So what we're going to do, if you haven't done this before, you're going to go to your connectors and you're going to press the plus button here. And then you're going to add Slack and Notion. Mine are already set up for the purpose of this exercise, but if you are taking the session on your desktop, this is the way to do it. Super easy peasy. Tori is also adding a link. You get a free week of Cowork as a little gift for being here today if you don't have it already. So feel free to use that link to get a free week off. And if you don't have Claude installed into your desktop, that's actually your step one. So I want to make sure that you're not using the web browser here. You need to actually have Claude installed onto your desktop, because what happens is it reads through everything while you're working, as long as your computer's open. So you need to give it all these permissionings. Feel free to take a moment. Will, do you have any more gold nuggets of knowledge that you want to share while we give everyone a second to add their connectors in?
Um, so many. I mean, connectors, I think a lot of people are using Cowork or Claude chats, or at least what we're seeing. And I know the limitations, or it feels like there's limitations with being able to connect with maybe some of your company's tools. But connectors allows you to do this, and you can use Cowork as just as a employee and still be able to access all this information by setting up a good structure on your computer. And so definitely recommend going in here and connecting things like Notion, Slack, email. You can also see the other connectors that you have access to. But it really unlocks, being able to do more effective work and go from telling Claude what you want as an output and it figuring it out versus having to map out each step on your own.
Yeah, I really love this tool. It makes it really easy. I also want to flag when we're building these workshops, Claude is constantly updating a workflow that I have for you 2 weeks ago changes even the week before I'm teaching. So a lot of these things that we're doing, if you find that it's not working in exactly the same way as the screenshot on the PDF is, just know that there were some like slight updates that Claude made even over the weekend because I was rehearsing this morning and I was like, wait, this process changed again. So just bear with us. But I think the premise is more of like the prompts are going to be the same, the task is going to be the same, your connectors are always there. Just the way it looks on your screen might be a little bit different. And I think that's like the cool part of just being a part of this new technology is that the iteration and the way that people are building and the companies that provide these LLMs are building are just insanely fast. I don't think I've ever gotten more product updates in this accelerated rate in my life. Like it's insane.
No.
All right, so back to this. Okay, so we're going to add a new task. So now that you have your cowork here, what we're going to do is we're going to add our prompt. And the way to do that is Tori's going to help me copy and paste this into the chat. I'm going to go in here and I am going to add this in. So basically, I'm teaching Claude a new task. So I wanted to create a scheduled task called Client Health Check that runs every Monday and Wednesday at 6 a.m. It's going to read the health tracker on Notion that I have already set up. And then each client row, it knows exactly how to monitor and check Slack first. And then it's going to help create the update in Notion. So let's see what it does. It takes a quick moment.
And so, just so we're clear, Victoria, this is just one prompt that you're doing. This isn't a skill yet. Are you going to make a skill from this?
So we're creating a recurring task, and then from that task, once it's scheduled, it automatically sends you the report on your Slack channel.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, so so you can see here, I'm scheduling a task. So it's kind of like having an employee manually review all of this. This is now your newest account manager, and her sole duty is to check on client health and send you, the founder, a report twice a week. So once you schedule the task, it's going to jump directly into Slack. You'll get a notification with the link to your Notion, and then your updated Notion will be there. And it runs twice a week. And
That's awesome.
note that you can also adjust your prompt accordingly. So maybe like you don't want your report on Monday and Wednesday. Maybe those are not the days you want to be focused on this. So then you can do it on Friday. So the day of the week is really up to you. But the purpose of this is that once this starts to run, you're just going to get an automatic message in Slack and it takes care of everything for you. So I'm checking here at 6 a.m. only on Monday and Wednesday. It's going to read everything and then enables this task. I'm enabling it. So I updated it. Great. So now it's scheduled and what it does on each run. And then I'm going to run it now. So it's checking on everything. And then I'm actually going to open my Notion page and we should be able to see everything. So we'll just give it a quick second. I also wanted to take a moment and shout out the front desk team because they do a wonderful job of like testing everything beforehand, making sure it all works. We use all of the things that we're teaching here in our own business. So it's been really fun. And I'm just the spokesperson here, but it's been a fun team effort, like bringing this to life and making sure that it's functional for solopreneurs and for smaller business owners.
Big shout out.
Yeah, it's always cool to build with your team because then you're using things that they're going to use every single day.
Yeah, something I want to recommend too is using AI or using Claude to suggest ways to improve your day to day. So something that a lot of people overlook is just opening up a new chat and saying, what are some tasks that I've done, or look through our chat history and tell me the things that we've been doing over the last month that have been repetitive and that I could turn into workflows. And I do this about once a month just to come up with some ideas. But it has a really good record, obviously, of all the things that you're doing. And if it picks up repetitive things, like maybe checking your, client health, it can then make suggestions on, uh, you know, different workflows or tasks that you can build for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to open up. Do we have any questions from anyone while we're watching this awesome run operate? Claude is just thinking. No questions.
I'll ask you, Victoria, it looks like you're pretty quick to allow permissions. How do you think about that and keeping information safe and giving over permissions?
Oh, that's such a good question. So, in regards to permissioning, um, we have like certain do's and don'ts on what we add to projects, and where we communicate on Slack channels. So,
Hmm.
if there's proprietary information, we use a separate chat that is not allowed to be read by Claude. And then in regards to like how we prompt projects, especially when we're under NDA, there's certain things that we don't give information to our LLMs. And the my rule of thumb, even outside of creating automations and workflows when it comes to AI, is we should get to our own first draft and then your AI should help refine a lot of the strategic work that you do. Because at the end of the day, clients are paying for our creativity and our strategy and our approach. And AI is there to help enhance the human creativity of what we're building. And so because I've done that, that's kind of like the best way to go about it. And then any sort of like um, press embargoes, anything that isn't released to the public, we do not add into our LLM at all. We build those from scratch still. But what we use our LLMs help on is providing like a template, for example, to use for go to market and having us spit out like, well, we've planned these things. What else could we potentially be missing? But still leaving out like the timeframes for like the proprietary information and not adding any proprietary information itself into LLMs. But I still think it's like a precarious balance. How about you, Will?
Um, our approach is we're at for the like 0.001% chance that AI is gonna completely destroy my life. I probably give it too many permissions, but what it does and what it sounds like you're doing already is like forces me to figure out how to set those guardrails to do it responsibly. versus the other side of that, which are the people who maybe are a little hesitant or scared to allow it to give access to anything, and you just never learn. And so I think by avoiding it, you don't make any progress. Where I'd rather dive headfirst and kind of, figure out how to swim as we go.
Yeah, I think it's just a rule of thumb is if other people or competitors or brands shouldn't know about something already, you probably shouldn't add it into your LLM. But when it comes to like your internal systems and you're looking to optimize it, a lot of the permissions I have, I'm pretty open with it. But again, I think it also depends what industry you work for, right? Like I am at the intersection of like a bunch of different creative fields. So there's a little more room I have to play with my AI tools versus like if I was in a government um, program or if I was in like the health sector and I'm waiting for FDA approval on something, I probably shouldn't add that into my LLM. And I
Mm-hmm.
also just want to flag like AI is not all knowing. There's many times where it's extremely agreeable when it shouldn't be. There's many times where um, it's just wrong. And that's why there's such a big trend right now with AI educators discussing what human in the loop really means and like how to
Mm-hmm.
make sure you, as the expert, you as the human, are also checking every single piece of this output to make sure that it's correct. I will say though, Will, when you and I started with Claude, I think we used it around the same time in different projects together, and it would get the years wrong too. Like it didn't have all the info. So it's been cool to see how far it's come in the
Yeah.
couple of years since it's been out and like really working for, retail clients. But I still think regardless, AI has a long way to go.
Yeah. It used to hate numbers or not know how to process numbers whatsoever.
Yeah. Math was not its skill set.
No.
All right, so we're here with our client health tracker, though. So if you noticed, I pulled the link directly from the chat interface on the task, and I pulled it into here, mostly because my Slack is still proprietary, guys. Sorry, I'm not going to share that on on this live call. But you can see here that according to my automation that I have a couple of at-risk clients. So we sent a performance report. We didn't get a client response, and our project status is stalled. So we need to reach out directly to that account holder. We also see that we're missing our Q2 campaign brief without approvals. So we need to make direct outreach to that client. So these are very at risk, right? We have not heard from them. By the way, these are all fake clients. We wanted to make sure we have like really fair guardrails here. But for the sake of this exercise, we worked on some of this and made sure that they were realistic as well. And then with Meridian Consulting, we see that one, we didn't make a Slack channel. And they're not in the Slack channel for whatever reason. So we need to figure out, is that a people process? Is that a fail safe in the SOP? Did we not follow our SOP? I have questions for my account manager here. Like, we're going to discuss this on our weekly for me to understand why the client doesn't have a Slack channel. And this is like good for me as a CEO to understand. And then the Founders Table and Salon Collective seem to be operating. Everything is on track. Everyone's jamming in the chats. Everyone's happy. And then I can also see here that we sent a content calendar and everything is moving on schedule. So this is kind of great. This is a great conversation starter with your team. It's great for you to also see like what are some pain points in my process for client onboarding or for communications, and then how do we solve for it? Cool. Any thoughts here, Will? Or any questions, team?
I think for me, I mean, this is obviously awesome. And like I think this is a good example of something that I, as a business owner, or, again, this can be applied to so many things, but it's one of those things that you should be doing. And you think you do it to some degree, but it's probably not habitual. Actually going through and auditing your Slack channels or whatever it is. And so building this in all of 15 minutes if you sat down and do this, gives me so much more information to give me more signals and indication that I just wouldn't have otherwise. And it's kind of that, again, back to the what we were saying at the beginning of like the gut check. Um, you no longer are gut checking whether things are working or not for your clients, or if you're feeling these things, you're actually able to codify it. And so even if I check this once a week or once a month or whatever it is, you have a better pulse. And then what you mentioned as well is what are all the things that we can now build on top of this, right? So, okay, we could build another workflow that if it detects at-risk clients, make sure we talk about it on our Monday morning agenda. Right. So this is kind of surfacing issues, and then how can we then implement a solve for them? Which I think is a really, really smart way to be using this.
Yeah, and then here you can kind of see where anything that needs attention, where we need to act, it also will flag, here are the notes, here's what you need to be watching, where we stalled at. And it just helps you understand this latest response date and like when these responses are due by. So the flag is just step one. And to Will's point, what you do with the flags matter even more than the flags themselves. But at least you have this consolidated in one place. And then from there, you can build out another workflow for your action plan. All right. Any question on that, guys?
I think we had a question in here.
Let me see.
What have you identified as high risk flags with clients in your experience? So, what are the
Oh,
actual
it's
signals?
honestly, when clients go quiet, there's something wrong. I would say when they start to disengage with you in meetings or in the chat box, when they're not excited to come to a meeting, and they're just going through the motions and just saying yes to everything, there could be flags there.
Yeah.
And then I would say last but not least, if you're sending work for approvals, um, paying attention to client behavior at the beginning is very important when you're setting up an account. If someone's chronically late on approving things, I wouldn't say I would worry as much. That's just kind of their founder behavior. But if there's an issue where they were really on top of it, very communicative, and then all of a sudden they go quiet and they're no longer bantering back and forth with you and approving things on time, that's immediately something where I would call a call and be like, hey, do you mind staying on longer? Just you and I kind of want to get an understanding of what's going on. I noticed that we haven't been getting approvals lately from you. Is there anything that we can improve on to help support you in getting those back to us on time? And just those conversations that are a little more candid are very critical. And I recommend that depending on your relationship with the client, that you either ask for a one-on-one or you jump in at the end of a weekly normal sync with your normal agenda to follow up and just, do a quick pulse check as a human. All right.
Really smart.
So let's connect the dots. I just want to emphasize we're in week 4 of our 5 weeks of lightning sessions before we kick off our full workshop. We're having a workshop kick off on June 17th that helps tie everything together. By attending this workshop, you get $100 off. So Tori and Charles are going to pop that link for the actual workshop into the chat. Would really love to connect with you guys. And then for all of you attending today, just thank you so much for your time. Like I said, if you have further questions after this, feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me on LinkedIn. You can send me a quick email. More than happy to support you. And then last but not least, I'm curious, what is something that you took away from this? What's something that opened up for you today? I would love to see it on the chat box or hear from you if you feel comfortable going off of mute. I don't know. Like I said, I love hosting these because they force me to look at more creative ways to support you guys in learning. And with the rate at which Claude specifically is rolling out new updates, it keeps me on my toes, my team on their toes, and really helps us better understand how we can support you all in your learning. Yeah, thanks, Cami. This is very much a proactive exercise. All right. Well, we did really well on timing. I'm very happy about that. I just wanted to provide the QR code for your PDF. We will also send it to you via email, but if you just want to take a quick photo of that and grab it for yourself, feel free to do that. You'll get all of the prompts, your tracker, and everything else in that PDF. All right. I'll leave that up for just a quick moment more. And then, yeah, I don't know. As a business owner, I kind of don't like surprises. It's just not a part of my forte. Less surprises, the better when it comes to work stuff. So protect yourself, protect the business, use this workflow, and thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Victoria, thank you as always. This is so helpful, and really taking these kind of routine tasks and making them something that can just happen automatically. I think this is the real glimpse into this like agentic autonomous work that we've been promised with AI for so long actually coming to life. And so, really cool to see how you're using it in your business and for some of your clients. Um, Please join us next week. We have our final session with Victoria before our workshop next Monday. I also am doing workshops every Wednesday on Maven, mostly around like content engineering, more focused towards content marketers or CMOs in general, and how to build the workflows there. A little bit more advanced, but we still keep it pretty simple and straightforward. So look forward to seeing you guys there.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.